My name is James Tompdaughter, and I'm 70 years old. If you're just starting to watch this story now, I need you to take a deep breath because what I'm about to share with you is something I never thought could happen in my own home, under my own roof, to the person I'd spent my entire life trying to protect. This is a story about trust, betrayal, and the kind of evil that hides behind a smile at the breakfast table. This is a story about trust, betrayal, and the kind of evil that hides behind a smile at the breakfast table. Imagine a life built brick by brick over 4 decades, only to find out the foundation was laced with lies. That's the terrifying realization that ambushed me in my retirement. It's about my mother, the woman who raised me, and the wife I thought I knew after 45 years of marriage. I'm a retired university lecturer from Montreal, spent 43 years teaching history to teenagers who mostly didn't want to be there, but I loved every minute of it. In our little brick house in Nepean, a place built on the quiet, steady rhythm of family life, Catherine and I raised 2 beautiful children. Olivia, our daughter, lives in Edmonton now, chasing her own path in tech. She visits maybe twice a year, if we're lucky. But it was 10 years ago that the cornerstone of our world cracked. Our son, Benjamin, died of cancer at 38. The silence in the house after he was gone was louder than any scream. That kind of loss, the loss of a child, doesn't just change you. It leaves a permanent cavity, a silent battleground where Catherine and I were supposed to fight for each other. Instead, that grief became a slow, quiet poison. It dismantles you. If you have ever had to watch a loved one fade, or if you've ever felt that cold dread about trusting someone completely, hit the like button and subscribe. This story is a warning that you need to hear from beginning to end. My mother, Eleanor, is 105. Sharp as a tack most of her life, but about 3 years ago, we started noticing things. She'd forget where she put her keys, call me by my father's name. Once she left the stove on and nearly started a fire in her apartment. The doctor said it was early-stage Parkinson's disease, not severe, but it was there, progressing slowly. She could still hold conversations, remember most of her life, recognize all of us, but she needed supervision. She couldn't live alone anymore. Olivia couldn't take her. Edmonton's expensive, her condo is tiny, and honestly, she's never been close to my mother. They had some falling out years ago over something I never quite understood. So, last September, sitting in the heart of our kitchen on a rainy Tuesday, the solution seemed simple and noble. Bring my mother, Eleanor, home. I brought it up. She's my mother, I told Catherine. She took care of me. It's my turn now. Catherine looked up from the paper, her reading glasses perched on her nose. She had that calculating expression, that slight hesitation, and then she folded the newspaper slowly. All right, she said, if that's what you want, but you'll need to be the primary caregiver. I agreed immediately. When she finally smiled, that familiar, warm, supportive smile I'd relied on for 40 years, I was filled with gratitude, not suspicion. That smile I'd seen 1,000 times over 4 decades. Warm, supportive, the smile of a partner who had your back. Looking back now, I wonder if I ever really saw what was behind that smile. Mom moved in the first week of October. We made the spare room, which had been Benjamin's room, into a sanctuary for her. Catherine even helped. For those first few weeks, the house was bright again. We'd eat together, 3 of us at the table, porridge, bagels, pancakes. Mom would be happy watching her game shows, calling out the answers. I was her primary caregiver. We did Sudoku, watched old movies. Those moments were precious. But then, as the days grew shorter, around late November, the light began to dim. It wasn't a sudden break, but a subtle chilling of the air, like a window was left open in a blizzard. I told myself it was just the season, but every evening I saw the shadow fall across my mother's face a little sooner, The truth? It was the shadow of Catherine's indifference. Mom seemed more tired. She'd sleep later in the mornings, sometimes not getting up until 9:30 or 10:30. I figured maybe the move had been hard on her. Maybe she needed time to adjust. I noticed she wasn't eating as much. She started losing weight, not dramatically, but enough that I could see the fragility in her face, in her hands. More alarming than the weight loss was the change in her spirit. She seemed scared. That is the only word for it. She would flinch sometimes when Catherine came into the room. She'd go quiet, look down, answering Catherine's questions in a small voice, like a child being scolded. This wasn't my mother. Eleanor had always been strong-willed, opinionated, unafraid to speak her mind. This new version of her, this timid, withdrawn woman, felt like a betrayal of her own history. It worried me more than her Parkinson's ever could. I now realized that fear, that flinching, was my mother's final, silent cry for help. One evening in late December, Mom shuffled into the kitchen and sat at the table. She watched me chop vegetables for a while, and then, quiet as a ghost, she asked, does she like having me here?" My knife dropped. "Of course she does," I insisted, but as I walked over to sit beside her, a knot of doubt tightened in my stomach. Was Catherine being cold? I flashed back. Short sentences, yes or no answers, spending all her time in the bedroom. But I immediately pushed the thought away. I justified it. "She's just busy, Mom," I said, patting her hand. "Having another person in the house, that takes getting used to, right?" It was easier to blame the adjustment, to blame Catherine's schedule, than to face the terrifying possibility that my wife was the reason for my mother's fear. "It's nothing to do with you." Mom nodded, but she didn't look convinced. "Okay," she said, "if you say so." That conversation stuck with me. I started watching, really watching. I saw the heavy sighs when Mom moved slowly, the tight smile that didn't reach Catherine's eyes. I told myself I was paranoid, stressed, a loving son overreacting. But the quiet voice of my gut refused to be silenced. It was the quiet, persistent whisper of urgency. Then, in mid-December, after shoveling the driveway, the world pivoted on a single, horrifying visual. I'd gotten up early to shovel the driveway after an overnight snowfall. When I came back inside, cold and sweaty, I went to check on Mom. She was still in bed, which was unusual. She was always an early riser, even with the Parkinson's disease. I knocked softly on her door. "Mom, you awake? Come in, James." Her voice came, weak and tired. I opened the door. She was sitting up in bed, looking exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Her hair, usually neatly combed by this point in the morning, was messy. "Are you feeling okay?" I asked, walking over to sit on the edge of her bed. "Just tired, honey. Didn't sleep well. Do you want me to bring you breakfast in bed? I can make you some porridge. Bring it up." "That's sweet," she said. "Maybe in a bit." She reached up to push her hair back from her face, and that's when I saw it. A cut on her forearm just below the elbow, dark purple, the size of a thumbprint. Actually, several thumbprints, like someone had grabbed her arm hard. "Mom?" I said gently, taking her arm to look closer. "What happened here? Did you fall?" She pulled her arm back quickly, tucking it under the blanket. "It's nothing," she said. "I bumped into the door frame yesterday. You know how clumsy I am." But something about the way she said it, the way she wouldn't meet my eyes, set off alarm bells. "Mom, are you sure?" "That looks like I'm fine, James," she said more firmly. "Really, don't fuss." I wanted to push to ask more questions, but she looked so tired, so fragile. I let it go. "Okay," I said. "I'll bring you some breakfast in a few minutes. You rest." I went downstairs, my mind racing. A cut like that doesn't come from bumping a door frame. I would know. I saw enough injuries during my years teaching kids who got hurt playing sports, kids who got hurt other ways. But Mom was 105 with Parkinson's disease. It was possible she'd fallen and didn't remember correctly. It was possible she'd grabbed herself somehow. I was probably overreacting. Catherine was in the kitchen dressed for work, pouring coffee into her travel mug. "Morning," she said, not looking at me. "Is your mother up yet?" "Yeah, she's awake." "She's tired, though. Says she didn't sleep well." Catherine said, checking her phone. "Well, I'm off. I've got back-to-back appointments all day. There's leftover lasagna in the fridge for dinner." "Catherine, wait," I said. "Did you notice any cuts on Mom? On her arm?" She looked up, her face blank. "Cuts? No. Why? She has a cut on her forearm. Looks like she might have fallen or bumped into something. I just wondered if you'd seen anything." Catherine shrugged. "She's old, James. Old people cut easily. She probably doesn't even remember how she got it." She picked up her keys. "I really need to go. See you tonight." And she was gone. I stood in the kitchen for a long moment, staring at the door she just walked through. That is the terrible genius of an abuser. They make you doubt your own sanity. I kept replaying her blank face, her dismissive shrug. Was she simply tired, or was that the mask slipping? I desperately wanted to believe the clumsy old lady story, but the history lecturer in me knew better. Those cuts were data points, and they pointed to a terrifying conclusion. Something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something wasn't right. I made Mom her porridge, brought it up to her room, watched her eat a few bites before she said she was full. She looked so small in that bed, so vulnerable. Over the next few weeks, I became hyper-aware of everything. I watched Mom closely. I watched Catherine closely, and I saw things that made my blood run cold. More cuts appeared, one on Mom's shoulder, one on her hip. Mom always had an explanation. She'd fallen, she'd bumped into something. She was just clumsy. But her explanations were vague, uncertain, like she wasn't sure herself, and her fear of Catherine grew worse. If Catherine was in the house, Mom would stay in her room. If Catherine came into the living room, where Mom was watching TV, Mom would tense up, go silent, shrink into herself. One time, I walked into the kitchen and found Catherine standing over Mom, who was sitting at the table. Catherine was speaking in a low voice, too quiet for me to hear, but the expression on her face was hard, cold. When she saw me, her face immediately softened into a smile. "Just reminding your mother to take her medication," she said cheerfully, but Mom's hands were shaking as she picked up her pill bottle. I started losing sleep. Night after night, I'd lie in bed next to Catherine, listening to her breathe, wondering what was happening in my house, wondering if my wife, the woman I'd spent 45 years with, the woman I'd raised children with, could be hurting my mother. It seemed impossible, insane. Catherine wasn't a violent person. She'd never raised a hand to anyone in all the time I'd known her. But the evidence was there, the cuts, the fear, Mom's deteriorating condition. I thought about confronting Catherine directly, asking her outright if something was going on. But what would I say? "Are you abusing my father?" She'd deny it. She'd be offended. She'd make me feel crazy for even suggesting it. And if I was wrong, if I was just paranoid, it would destroy our marriage. 45 years of trust gone over an accusation I couldn't prove. But if I was right, I needed proof. I needed to see what was happening when I wasn't there, when I was asleep, because I'd started to notice something else. Mom's condition always seemed worse in the mornings, more tired, more cut, more frightened, like something was happening at night. That's when I decided to set up the microphone. I'm not proud of it. I'm not the kind of person who spies on people, who sets up hidden surveillance in his own home. It felt like a violation of privacy, of trust. But I kept thinking about my father, about how scared she looked, about those cuts, and I knew I had to do something. I had to know the truth. I went to an electronics store in downtown Montreal, told the young man working there that I wanted a small microphone for home security. He showed me several options. I picked one that was tiny, could be hidden easily, had motion sensor, and could record for hours on an audio recorder. It cost me $300. I paid in cash. Didn't want it showing up on our joint credit card statement. I brought it home and waited for the right moment. On a Wednesday afternoon, Catherine was at work. Mom was napping. I went into Mom's room. My hands were shaking as I looked around for a good spot to hide the microphone. It needed to have a clear view of Mom's bed, but it couldn't be obvious. I finally settled on the bookshelf across from her bed. I put the microphone behind a framed photograph of Mom and Dad from their 45th wedding anniversary. Adjusted the angle. The lens was tiny, barely visible. Unless you knew it was there, you'd never spot it. I turned it on, set it to motion-activated recording, and left the room. Then I waited. That night at dinner, I could barely eat. Catherine chatted about her day at work, some problem with a client's books. Mom picked at her food. I watched them both, my stomach in knots. After dinner, we all watched TV for a while in the living room. At 8:30, Mom said she was tired and wanted to go to bed. I helped her to her room, made sure she had everything she needed. "Good night, Mom," I said, kissing her forehead. "Sleep well." "Good night, honey," she said. She looked exhausted. I closed her door and went back downstairs. Catherine and I watched the news, then went to bed ourselves around 10:30. I lay there in the dark, Catherine beside me, waiting, listening. I don't know what I expected to hear. Footsteps, voices, but the house was silent. I must have fallen asleep eventually, because the next thing I knew, my alarm was going off. 5:30 in the morning. I got up carefully, not wanting to wake Catherine. Went downstairs, made coffee. My hands shook as I poured it. I knew what I had to do. I had to check that microphone, but I was terrified of what I might find. I waited until Catherine left for work at 10. Then I went up to Mom's room. She was still sleeping, breathing softly. I quietly retrieved the microphone from behind the photograph and took it to my office. My heart was pounding as I plugged the audio recorder into my computer. The video player opened. The recording had started at 12:05 a.m. the previous night, triggered by motion in the room. I clicked play. At first, it was just Mom sleeping. The motion sensor gave everything a green tint. I could see her chest rising and falling peacefully under the blankets. For several minutes, nothing happened. I started to feel foolish. What did I think I was going to see? Then, at 1:17 a.m., according to the timestamp, the door opened. Catherine walked into the room. She was wearing her nightgown, moving quietly. She walked over to Mom's bed and stood there for a moment, looking down at her. I watched, confused. Was she just checking on Mom? Making sure she was okay? Then Catherine reached down and shook Mom's shoulder hard. Mom woke up, disoriented, confused. I couldn't hear what they were saying clearly. The microphone didn't have great audio, but I could see Mom's face. Fear. Immediate, stark fear. She tried to sit up, but Catherine pushed her back down, and then Catherine started talking to her, leaning close to Mom's face, speaking directly at her. I couldn't make out all the words, but I caught fragments. Burden. Ruining my life. Should be in a home. Pathetic. Mom was crying, silent tears running down her face as Catherine bared her. It went on for 12 minutes. 12 minutes of my husband verbally abusing my father, saying things I couldn't fully hear, but could imagine. Mom just lay there crying, not fighting back, too confused and scared to defend herself. Then Catherine grabbed Mom's arm, the same arm where I'd seen the cut. She gripped it hard, her fingers digging into the flesh, and yanked Mom halfway out of bed. "Listen to me," Catherine hissed. And this I heard clearly. You don't say anything to James about this, not one word. If you do, I'll make sure you end up in the worst nursing home I can find. Do you understand me?" Mom nodded, sobbing. Catherine shoved her back onto the bed and left the room. The whole thing had lasted maybe 18 minutes. On the video, I watched Mom curl up under her blankets, crying into her pillow, alone in the dark. I sat at my computer, staring at the screen, unable to move, unable to breathe. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be my husband. Catherine, who I'd spent 45 years with. Catherine, who'd been a good mother to our children. Catherine, who'd held my hand at Benjamin's funeral and promised we'd get through anything together. But it was real. I just watched it happen. I just watched my wife abuse my mother in the middle of the night when she thought no one was watching. And suddenly, everything made sense. The cuts, the fear, Mom's deteriorating condition, the weight loss, the exhaustion. This wasn't the first time. I realized with a sickening certainty that the monster in the dark was the woman sleeping next to me. This wasn't just a betrayal of our vows. It was a crime hiding in plain sight. Take a moment to think about the elderly in your own life. This silent horror is happening in countless homes right now. If this video opens your eyes, you have a duty to share it. This conversation cannot stay silent. This had been happening over and over every night for weeks, maybe months. I don't know how long I sat there, long enough that I heard Mom stirring, getting up. I closed the video player quickly, shoved the microphone in my desk drawer, and went to check on her. She was in the bathroom, moving slowly, painfully. When she came out and saw me, she flinched. "It's okay, Mom," I said gently. "It's just me. Let me help you downstairs. I'll make breakfast." Over porridge, I watched her closely. She was pale, exhausted, barely touching her food. I wanted to tell her I knew. I wanted to hold her and promise her it would never happen again. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because I knew if I confronted Catherine without a solid plan, she'd deny everything, destroy any evidence, maybe even try to have Mom declared incompetent so her word wouldn't hold up. I needed more evidence. I needed to document everything. And I needed to figure out the right way to get Mom to safety and get Catherine out of our lives. I kept the microphone running. Every night, I'd retrieve the audio recorder in the morning and save the videos to an encrypted folder on my computer. And every night, the same thing happened. Catherine would wait until she thought I was asleep, then go to Mom's room. Sometimes she'd hit Mom, slap her face, pinch her arms. Sometimes she'd just stand there and verbally abuse her, calling her names, telling her she was worthless, that she'd ruined Catherine's life by coming to live with us. Sometimes she'd force pills down Mom's throat. Painkillers, I think, to keep her sedated during the day so she'd be less trouble. I documented it all, 5 nights of video evidence, and every morning I'd sit with Mom at breakfast, my heart breaking, pretending I didn't know because I was building a case. I called a social worker, an elder care advocate named Sarah Levin that a former colleague recommended. I met with her privately, showed her the videos on my laptop in her office. She watched them, her face getting harder with each one. When they finished, she looked at me and said, "Mr. Tompdaughter, this is elder abuse, criminal abuse. Your wife could face jail time for this. I need to get my mother away from her." I said, "Safely, legally. I can't just throw Catherine out. It's her house too, and I'm afraid if I confront her, she'll hurt Mom worse." Sarah nodded. "Here's what we're going to do. First, you need to get your father to a doctor today, if possible. Document those cuts. Get them photographed. Get a medical report stating they're consistent with physical abuse. That combined with these videos gives us everything we need. Then we contact the Adult Protective Services. They'll remove your husband from the home and charge her. You can file for a restraining order immediately. Your father we'll be safe. Today, I said, the thought of confronting this today, of blowing up my entire life today, was terrifying. The longer you wait, the more danger your father is in, Sarah said gently. I know this is hard, but you know what needs to be done. She was right. I knew she was right. I went home. Catherine was at work. I told Mom I was taking her to see a doctor just to check up. She didn't argue. I took her to our family physician doctor, Moradaughter, who I'd called ahead of time and explained the situation to. He examined Mom thoroughly, documented every cut, every mark. He took photographs. He asked Mom gentle questions about how she got the injuries. At first, she gave her usual vague answers, but then when Dr. Moradaughter said quietly, Eleanor, you're safe here. You can tell me the truth. She broke down. She told him everything about Catherine coming to her room at night, about the hitting, the verbal abuse, the threats, about being forced to take pills that made her sleep all day, about being too scared to tell me because Catherine said she'd send her away. Dr. Moradaughter documented all of it. Then he looked at me. James, I'm a mandatory reporter. I have to report this to the authorities. This is criminal abuse. I know, I said. I want you to. I want this stopped. He nodded and made the call right there from his office. Within an hour, 2 Adult Protective Services officers arrived at the clinic. They took our statements. They watched the videos I'd saved on my laptop. They looked at the medical report. And then one of them, a female officer named Officer Patel, said, Mr. Tompdaughter, we're going to go to your house and arrest your husband. We'll need you and your father to come with us to give formal statements at the station. Are you prepared for that? I looked at Mom sitting in the clinic chair, looking small and frail and scared, but also for the first time in weeks, hopeful. Yes, I said, we're ready. The Adult Protection Services went to my house first. I'd given them my key. They let themselves in and found Catherine, who'd come home from work early. I don't know exactly what happened in that moment, but the officers told me later she denied everything at first. Said I was crazy, that Mom was senile and making things up. But when they showed her the videos, told her about the medical evidence, she went silent. They arrested her, charged her with assault, elder abuse, forcible confinement. They took her to the station, processed her, held her in custody. Meanwhile, Mom and I were at a different Adult Protective Services station giving our statements. It took hours. They were gentle with Mom, patient when she got confused or forgot details. They asked me about the timeline, about when I first suspected something about setting up the microphone. By the time we finished, it was evening. Officer Patel drove us home. The house felt different without Catherine there. Empty, cold, but also for the first time in months. Safe. I made Mom some soup for dinner. We ate in silence, both of us exhausted, processing what had just happened. Thank you, Mom said quietly as I helped her to bed that night. Thank you for believing me, for saving me. I'm so sorry, Mom, I said, and I was crying now. I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner. I'm sorry I let this happen to you. She took my hand. You didn't let anything happen, James. You stopped it. That's what matters. The legal process that followed was brutal. Catherine was released on bail with a no-contact order, meaning she couldn't come near Mom or me. She moved in with her sister in Bar Haven. I filed for separation agreement immediately. She fought me on everything, tried to claim the videos were illegal, that I'd violated her privacy. But Sarah, my social worker, shut that down fast. You can't claim privacy when you're committing crimes. The criminal trial happened 8 months later. The Crown prosecutor was fantastic, a woman named Amanda Singh, who treated Mom with such respect and dignity throughout the whole ordeal. She presented the videos in court, the medical evidence, Mom's testimony, which she gave bravely despite her confusion and fear. my testimony about what I'd observed. Catherine's defense social worker tried to paint me as vindictive, claimed I'd manipulated Mom against Catherine, that the videos were taken out of context. But how do you take elder abuse out of context? The jury saw through it. They deliberated for less than 2 hours, guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced Catherine to 110 months in prison, followed by 3 years probation. She'd never be allowed to work with vulnerable populations again. She'd have a criminal record for the rest of her life. Our separation agreement was finalized while she was serving her sentence. I got the house. She got nothing. I didn't care about the money or the property. I just wanted her gone. Mom lived with me for another year after the trial. Olivia flew in from Edmonton and actually apologized to Mom for whatever had driven them apart years ago. They reconciled. It was beautiful to see. Mom's physical injuries healed relatively quickly, but the emotional trauma took longer. She had nightmares. She'd wake up scared, thinking Catherine was in the house. We got her into therapy, specialized care for elder abuse victims. Slowly, gradually, she started to heal. She started smiling again, laughing at her game shows, telling her stories. But the Parkinson's disease continued to progress. That was something we couldn't stop. By the following October, a year after Catherine's arrest, Mom needed more care than I could provide at home. We found a wonderful memory care residence here in Montreal, a place that specializes in Parkinson's disease care. Olivia helped me move Mom in. The staff there are kind, attentive, vigilant. I visit her every single day. Some days she knows who I am, some days she doesn't. But she's safe. She's cared for. She's never afraid. I'm 70 now, retired from teaching, separation agreement, living alone in a house that feels too big. Olivia visits more often now, every few months instead of twice a year. We've gotten closer through all this. She tells me she's proud of me for protecting Grandma, for doing the right thing, even when it was hard. Catherine got out of prison last year. I don't know where she is now. Don't care. She's not allowed to contact me or Mom. Sometimes I think about the 45 years we spent together. Wonder if there were signs I missed earlier. Wonder if she'd always been capable of this cruelty and I'd just never seen it. Or if something in her broke when Benjamin died. Some darkness that took over and turned her into someone I didn't recognize. I'll never know the full truth. Was it always in her, or did something in her break when Benjamin died, turning her heart cold? It doesn't matter now. What matters is that I finally listened to the instincts I had fought so hard to ignore. I took action, even though I knew it meant destroying my marriage, my entire life as I knew it. That is the final call to action I want to give you. I protected my mother when she couldn't protect herself. Family is not defined by blood or a marriage certificate. It is defined by the promise to stand up against cruelty, even when the monster is wearing the most familiar face in your life. It's about being brave enough to shine a light into the darkness and expose what's hiding there. If you're in a situation like mine where you suspect someone you care about is being abused, please act. Don't wait. Don't hope it will get better. It won't get better on its own. Get help. Contact Adult Protective Services, the Child Protection Services, Elder Abuse Hotlines. In Australia, we have resources. Every province has reporting mechanisms for elder abuse. Use them. And if you're watching this because you see yourself in my story, because you're the one being hurt, please know this. You deserve safety. You deserve respect. You deserve care. What's happening to you is not your fault. You are not a burden. You are a human being with dignity and worth. And there are people who will help you if you can find the courage to tell someone. To anyone who made it through this whole story, thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Share this if you think it might help someone. Talk about elder abuse. Don't let it stay hidden in the darkness where it thrives. Be vigilant. Be brave. Be the person who speaks up, because silence protects abusers. Truth protects victims. I lost 45 years of my life, but I saved my mother's dignity and her life. Don't let your fear cost someone their safety. Leave a comment below if you've ever had to make a difficult choice to protect a loved one. Your courage might inspire someone else to act. And in the end, truth is all that matters.